What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Have you ever wondered, can you communicate directly with spirit guides, teachers, or non-physical consciousness, or even our higher selves? What would they tell us? My name is Kevin Moore, and since 2015, I started to practice a form of communication which is termed channeling. I have been interviewing experts on my talk show to find out, does life continue after we die? And can we communicate with those that have crossed over? With each expert I spoke to, they all had different ideas. Is there knowledge from the past which could be shared with the present moment? So I thought, why not just speak to the non-physical world directly through channelers around the world? And that's what I set out to do. They call us channelers will take the viewers on a journey into the phenomena known as channeling. And my main goal with this docuseries is to bring a new understanding and awareness to channeling by looking within ourselves and asking, is it truly possible that we can all use this innate ability?
Hi there, I'm Genevieve Taeger. I'm a soul purpose coach, author, intuitive channeler, intuitive healer, and I'm here to really help others to awaken that part of themselves that they have been closed off so that they can realize what it is that they can bring into this world and live it fully, because we have really suppressed those parts of ourselves. And I'm based out of Canada, and I'm excited to be here.
And I'm excited to have you on. I think this is a very important bit of work that you've done here, right? It's so timely for right now. The idea of awakening and moving into your purpose. I mean, I've had lots of guests. Actually, if you want the truth, the majority of channelers that have come on, if you want to know what the main message is out of 130, it is to live your purpose. How about that?
Yeah, it seems to be intuitively the word these days. And it's not something that I looked up or thought of or anything like that. It's just something that came through me.
Right. I was going to say, isn't that interesting? But then I was almost stopping myself and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. So let's get into your story. So a bit about backstory to begin with. I think you've always been sort of aware that there was more. If we go back to when you were 16, you tell a story in the book, and we'll be putting the book on the screen as we can, do this important interview. But yes, at 16, Mother Mary showed up in your bedroom. So you had no concept of what Mother Mary was, and you were really not into these subjects at the time, I believe.
No, not at all. I didn't study religion. I didn't, sometimes I went to Bible study and read a little bit, but I mean, that was just more to get together with the friends and try to understand a little bit, but I really didn't understand much at all, So this was something completely new to me. I didn't even know who Mother Mary was.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, why would you? And I suppose if that's the sort of upbringing that you've had, and you've got your name is French, but obviously were you born in France, or was it your parents came from France?
My parents actually came from Germany.
Germany.
So they were,
Right.
they were born in Berlin. They were born in 1940. And they immigrated when they were 21 to Canada because they wanted a sense of freedom. My dad was very spiritual, so he wanted freedom to be able to, go into that area. He was a photographer, so he was a bit of a free spirit.
So the name isn't French?
The name is French, yes.
Right.
My dad just loved that name.
I see. I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was the one that was maybe a bit more open than mum to the subjects.
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Do you think that's where, if there was something passed on, do you think it came from him? That
Yes,
openness?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came from him.
Okay.
He was a very quite an introvert, actually, and but he always loved to talk about spirituality. I mean, the main thing he would talk about is the answers lie within. Go within, meditate. The answers are in there.
Oh God, wasn't Dad correct on that? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I believe that there were sort of other dreams that you may have had, dreams that were not just Mother Mary, but maybe other beings that came to you.
Yes. So what happened was in my 16s, Mother Mary, and then next thing you know, I was camping, and I was camping alone at 16 again. And there were a bunch of blackbirds that came, and it was minimum 50 of them. I was being kind of conservative when I said 50, but there were 50 that came, and they were all in a tree. And they all of a sudden, and I had just spoken in my mind saying, "Can you bring the dove back?" Right? I was just saying it because there was this beautiful mourning dove that had been there for weeks. And then the birds came down, flew down, and they came soaring from my feet across to my head, and they would go, and then the next one, and the next one, and so forth. And each one, what they did was, as they were finished going across my body, then they would swirl just like 10 feet above me. And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And then all of them kept swirling until the final one was done. And then they went back into the tree. And that was some kind of initiation that I had experienced. And then when I was 18, all of a sudden I had experienced a connection to my spirit. It was a dream that I had. And then I had some kind of master came along and said, "Now it is time." We sat down meditation, and then I experienced that people talk about when you, when you go to the afterlife kind of experience, right? And then in my, I would say later 20s, then I started to have visitations from different beings that would give me teachings. And that typically was in my sleep.
Did you share these meetings and these teachings with anyone, or?
No, I kept that. It was interesting too, is when I would experience them, what the unique thing is, I felt like this was normal.
Of course.
And one time actually, in my 30s, I went to the funny thing is I went to a psychic, those psychic fairs to get a reading. And I hated this whole psychic thing, but someone told me, you should just go there and see what it's like. And I really fight it against that, but I thought, you know what, just do what the person says. So I went there, and I sat next to this woman, and she started to give a reading. And then she started bawling because she experienced Jesus behind me. And I could feel this hot energy in the back of my heart, and his head above my head, and also sending energy in the back of my throat. And I automatically knew who it was. And I thought, isn't this normal? Doesn't everyone experience this, right? I was very naive, thinking that this is just normal. And so this is kind of how the journey unfolded.
Understood. Absolutely. Interesting. So let's move this on then. Now, there was a point as well where you sort of walked away from all this. You had a normal career, a successful career. So just very briefly, what was that career in?
The career was in environmental health and safety. So I started out doing environmental consulting. I graduated from geography and music in university and decided to go into the environmental field. And I did that for 9 years. And then I got asked to do health and safety as well in a automotive manufacturing company, a major automotive manufacturing company. And I moved up into a role of supervisor. But what I tell people is I was actually a director without having been honored the title, that I wouldn't get paid what I was supposed to be getting paid, right? So I was in charge of 1,000 people. I was managing the managers, the supervisors, everyone with regards to environmental health and safety. I had built all their programs. There were 3 facilities. We had injection molding, painting, roll forming, assembly, sanding. We had all kinds of things all at once, right? And we had tool room, and every piece of equipment that came in, I was helping with the design of it and also the implementation of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a lot, right, for anyone. But you'd worked your way to this situation. You were the one that walked your path as well, which is fantastic. But there was an issue, wasn't there? There was deep down, you were not doing what you really were supposed to be doing at the time when you were supposed to be doing it. I guess what I'm trying to say, everything leading up to when you had what I'm going to term as a breakdown, maybe that's exactly what you were supposed to be doing, but the breakdown maybe came in. You can tell me yourself. I'm kind of putting my words into your story, but having sort of gone over the book just very briefly, that breakdown was the only way for you to, to get the message that, okay, it's time for a change now.
Yes. The breakdown was something that happened where I woke up one morning and I was hyperventilating. And I started having these dark thoughts that people talk about, which I always had normal mental health issues. Besides, when I was young, I had epilepsy because I had fallen on my head. But that had nothing to do with it. And so I experienced this tremendous break inside of me. And I just thought, that's it. I'm done. Because I felt I had just received my 20-year award with the company. I had been there 21 years, but I got the certificate with them. And it was the same thing over and over again. I remember telling myself a year prior, if nothing changes when I get that award, then I'm leaving. And I didn't even think about it. I didn't even place that association. But I got that award, and 2 days later, I woke up with a breakdown.
Yeah, that must have been difficult. And what was the way, because I'm sure others have had something similar as well, what was the way through this for you? How did you kind of fix yourself in a sense to get, mentally back to normal? What was the journey?
The great thing that I did was because I studied health and safety, and he wasn't my husband at the time, he was my boyfriend. He had studied psychology. And so I right away thought, I'm going to take some therapy sessions. And it was offered through the company too, which was a bonus. So what happened was for 2 months straight, every week, I had 2 separate therapists. One was focused on trying to get me back to work. So they're talking more corporate stuff and figuring out what is it that I need. And then the other one was talking about, just tell me how it is, Genevieve. Just tell me what's going on. And so what I did was I shared all my responsibilities that I've had in my life. And she said to me something really healing. She had a PhD and she was really, really good. She said to me, oh my goodness, Genevieve. She said, I'm surprised with everything that you had to deal with. I'm surprised you did not have a breakdown earlier. And that was key. That really helped me to understand that, hey, this is normal. If you put your body through this kind of havoc, then eventually you're going to break.
Yeah. Yeah. All in different ways, I suppose, but eventually it's the same kind of results,
Yes.
isn't it? Really? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So I almost want to say to you, what was the thing that then, what was that path that opened up to get into looking at your spiritual work, in a sense? I mean, I know that you started to get into Reiki, you was teaching it as well. I don't want to, sort of jump the gun too much, but I know we've got to get it. There's so much of your work to get into, but just very briefly, what was the way into what you're doing now, in a sense? Talk us through that journey.
Okay, so it actually goes back to that same psychic day that when I went to this psychic thing. So what happened was there was a woman there giving Reiki, and she intuitively was told from the ethers, there's going to be a Genevieve coming. So she waited. She's like, when is this Genevieve coming? And I happened to be like the second last appointment on a Sunday. And so I go up to her after I have these readings with people, and she starts giving me Reiki, and I was blown away by it. I could feel it. And what happened was my brother came through, my brother who had passed away. He had died tragically. He had fallen from an apartment building. Yeah. So he came through, and he was saying some things about healing and all this kind of stuff, right? So what happened after that moment, after that day, I started getting really interested in healing and learning about it and all that kind of stuff. I took Reiki from her right away. She had these little meetup groups where she was channeling some teachings. And I grew so much that I started reading every book possible. And I thought, well, what is this? What is this automatic writing? Let me give it a try. And so I just, I didn't know what I was doing. And I thought, I'll just give it a try. And I start writing, and the first person being that comes through is Kuan Yin. And I had no idea what Kuan Yin was. I thought it was some made up name. And, turns out she's well known in the East. And what she wrote was incredibly accurate, right? Because I had looked up some things afterwards. So this is kind of my journey. And then through that afterwards, I started channeling Ascended Masters at the time. And I would do it through writing. And then what I did was I decided, you know what, you need to come out in the world. And so I started having meetup groups in my house, and people would come, and I would share a written teaching. And then I would give them a guided meditation based on the teaching. And that's what happened. I would do that, some weekends.
Right. So when did this become the full-time thing then? I'm guessing that this is now what you do. This is now, I suppose, your job in a sense.
Well, it's funny you say that, because there I did it where I had people coming into my place, right? And that was in my 30s, and I was working. And then I stopped because I had a separation from my second husband. So I had a separation, and then it just ripped me apart, and I completely stopped, right? And then now what I'm doing is, I channel teachings into a book instead. And what I do now is I'm bringing forth these teachings for other people to be able to awaken themselves and heal what is holding them back. But also what happened as a gift by me spending a year channeling this book was I'm now channeling, tons of beings through for people, give them, and I don't even want to say readings, because what they told me is that this is for people who are ready to take responsibility in their lives and make change. So these are more empowerment sessions, and there's incredible healing energy that's coming through, because I was a Reiki master, so I was teaching Reiki for many years, since 2011. And I would say I've done a lot of work on my energy field, and I'm able to channel a lot of high frequency energy. So what happens is, and I didn't expect this, what happens is people receive healing as I'm channeling. And sometimes when I'm doing coaching, just regular coaching, even if it's, sometimes I do some business coaching on the sides for some people, for another company that I know. But what happens is sometimes people say, are you sending me something? Right? And I say, no, I'm not. And they actually feel it. They feel the energy, right? So this is kind of what's happening for me now, is that the channeling that's coming through is very empowered channeling. It's everything is in alignment only with three things: truth, love, and power. Wisdom, love, power. That's it. And so all the illusions that we have, they always want to reorient them to the divine truth. And so this is where they say they want you to have responsibility to take ownership, that you want to reorient yourself to this divine truth.
Right, absolutely. And I guess with your marriage breakdown, you had to go through that first before you were ready to, well, clear a lot of that as well, before you were ready to, do this work. And I guess this work has helped you in the healing process long term as well?
This work that I'm doing now
Yes.
has helped.
Yes.
Yes, it has helped me. It has helped me, but I feel like I experienced these teachings while I was already going through things. I just didn't put it down to words. I was receiving it more as a knowing inside of me. It's hard to explain, but it's kind of like when information from the divine comes, it can come to you as a whole book all in one thought, and you receive this information.
Yeah, try to get that round your head. That's right, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it felt when you were putting this together, it just flowed then.
It just flowed. It literally, what happened was this being came through. Her name was Goddess Padama. And I thought, okay, not really sure that name exists, right? It turns out they built a temple for her in India. So she came forth and she said, you are to write a book, and do not waste time. You need to do it now. So I thought, okay, if I'm going to live my purpose and be the living example, and I expect others to do the same, who go through what I teach, then I need to be that living example. I cannot live in fear. I need to do and trust, surrender. And so I started, and through that, what happened was I sat down every Monday and I said, okay, show me what I'm supposed to write. And I channeled the entire book. I was told immediately the title is Heal and Awaken the Goddess Within. And I thought, okay, so the first thought of me was, oh, should I change the title? It's not really what people will search for, right? And I thought, no, you can't do that. You have to trust. And then what happened was I was told it's going to be 22 chapters. And from there, I just started, and each chapter flowed beautifully into the next. And it was quite remarkable how that happened, and different goddesses and benevolent beings came forth. And to me, it's a miracle. It really is.
Yes, and you put that trust in that process, that it was going to provide for you, that it was okay to go into this new purpose, and you were going to be looked after. But there must have been some fear there. But if you want to be the example, then you have to lead the way, don't you?
Yeah, you do have to lead the way. And you talked about my past too, right? I've probably been through almost every kind of scenario that people think of, besides obviously the tragedies of war that people have to go through. But I've been through many terrible scenarios that have really allowed me to understand what people are experiencing, so that when I'm bringing forth these teachings, I have a total understanding,
Yeah, there's a level of apathy, isn't there, of understanding what they're going through, which is a different type of understanding, isn't it? When you've had to go through it yourself. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, very briefly as well, your website is?
It's liveatransformativelife.com.
Now, you offer services on there, I believe. And if you do, just want to just briefly just go through them as well, what you offer.
Yeah, sure. So I do channeling, obviously, empowerment channeling, and it's a healing as well. But I'm also taking people through my program, which is the Heal and Awaken Goddess Within. There's two portions. There's a heal portion, and then there's Heal and Awaken portion. And the Heal and Awaken is a 6-month program because it takes some time to be able to go through all those things that hold us back from living our greatness, from holding us back from really being inspired to awaken to that greatness, because we even hold ourselves back from even looking at that part of ourselves. And then once we experience that we can actually do certain great things, then we become afraid of that. So then you need to deal with the fear of that and walk in that power, and then also understand the science of the divine, understand the science of divine will, and what really is that. How can you align with that divine will? How can you align with your magnificence? How can you align with money, even if you want to have a business, right? So there's a healing in all those aspects, and then connecting you to your divine spirit. There's these teachings on how to do that. How can you connect to that? So it's a process, because you need to be able to shift your energy body. You need to be able to just understand that you have cellular memory. You have frequencies in your being. You have density like the earth. The earth is very dense. And when you have all these mental thoughts that are negative over a series of time in your life, which everyone has, that creates density in your body. In order to be able to bring a alignment with the awareness of divine truth, you must also shift your body. You must shift your mind to something that's a much higher frequency thought, so that you can then open your channels and receive divine energy. You can open yourself to intuition, and therefore then you can open yourself up to what it is that your calling is, or what it is that you feel drawn to in life. So it's a stage. Some people think, oh, I can just instantly do it. No, that's not the case. I mean, we're human beings, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's complicated enough, isn't it? Just being that sometimes. Yeah. So that's one service. And what is the other services?
So that's the thing. That's the channeling service, and then the the soul purpose coaching.
Okay, fantastic.
I call it coaching, but I mean, it's healing, it's intuitive.
No, it's great. It's really important. What you're doing is so important, but it's so timely for 2023. Don't you feel that? Because you mentioned off air to me that this book came out, was just released in December, but let's just, it's 2023. It's, that's when it's really being pushed. There's something about this year, isn't there? There's something about this year in the forms of actually moving more into purpose of what we should be doing. And I think people, when they watch this, are here for a reason, but they may have even had colleagues or friends that have said the same thing, that, well, not said that, but are saying, I think I want to do this, or I want to do that, but they're changing what they have legacy, what they've done, and they're stepping into something new, or they want to step into something new. They may not use the spiritual jargon that we're using, right? And no disrespect, I'm just saying, just how other people would see it. But it's all about this year, isn't it?
It's all about this year, and I've always had this innate ability to understand what's going on in the energy, right? And actually, funny thing is, I thought, is that possible that I have the ability, right? And I just thought, just trust it, see if it's true. And then next thing you know, it is true. It happens, right? I'm like a human too, and I just feel like, is this a bunch of garbage, right? And then next thing you know, it's accurate. So my energy prediction for this year is that there's a huge movement, that people are ready now to really feel like, what is it that I can do? I'm sick and tired of the old way. I'm sick and tired of the old me. I'm sick and tired of believing that all I can do is this. I'm sick and tired of the corporations telling me that I have to do A, B, C, and D. And then if I don't, then I don't get a raise. And then every year they don't even get a raise. They say they get the inflation raise. Meanwhile, inflation, is much higher than the raise that they get, and so forth, right? So this whole movement of energy is they're tired. And the COVID actually was a great gift in one aspect, is that it got people to see that they can actually do something different. When people started to work from home, they realized, what? Like, I can work from home. And then they started seeing possibilities that people can have online businesses because all these advertisements went out there on YouTube, right? Oh, have your own online business. So this is now the time where it's almost like Mother Earth is asking the world, hey, it's time to wake up. It's time for you to not just be a slumber. It's time for you to realize that you can bring greatness in the world, and you can do it in any unique way. You don't have to follow a specific protocol. You can just be uniquely you.
Right. Absolutely. And we'll get into all that and much more. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I agree with you. And I think this year, what you set up this year is has a legacy for many years to come in your life. Or it sets, if that, maybe that legacy is to set you up on, well, I'm going to do this, and then actually you're going to go on do this, but you've got to go through A, B, C first, and this is what is the starting ground for you. You may not even know it, right? And for some people, that energy may not be to even at the end of 2023, but for a lot of people, we feel it now. Or we're ready for the change. Do you know what I mean? Most definitely. Okay, so when you channel, then we got the goddesses, you got the ascended master, the angels. When you channel, is this creatively written, creative writing, or is it actually verbally coming through and then it's getting dictated?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the way I receive information is often they show up as thoughts. So I hear the words, in other words, and I'm able to type word for word. Often what happens is I don't even know what the sentence will be. And I just type the next word, then the next word, then the next word, and then it forms a sentence. And I don't even know what the paragraphs will be. And I just keep going. And there are sometimes when I get a word and I don't know what it means. And I have to look it up because I'm not really sure if it's actually going to be a proper word. And I'm surprised at some of the words I get. Sometimes I may not get the word properly. I'm not getting it. So I get visuals. And then I kind of paraphrase into something that I think is similar to the word I'm getting.
That's interesting. Wow. Well, a lot of trust that is as well. So, so you're very conscious. It sounds like you're consciously channeling this as well. You're not having to go into some sort of trance state. Is there any sort of like, do you have to sort of mentally picture a door opening in your head when you start this? Is there some sort of practice that you do to start this off?
No, I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
I literally just start, right? Like it's like, okay, show me what I'm supposed to, and then I start to feel an energy around me. And that's where I can sense what kind of being it is. Usually with the beings, I don't necessarily get the words, the names. Sometimes I do, but often I get a sensation and a visual. And that's how I figure out who it is.
Interesting, because 22 separate individual beings came through for the 22 teachings in this book, right?
Yes.
It's a busy household that time with all them coming through. Yeah, and you just allowed that to be discernment-wise when bringing 22 different individuals. Was there any sort of ideas in the back of your head like, oh my, hang on a minute, is this teaching the highest teaching? Is it with love? How did you discern what was coming through? I'm sure everything that came through was positive, but did you ever consider that at all? That, hang on a minute, what door are you coming through?
Okay, yeah, it's the most important thing to be able to receive that energy is to stay in alignment yourself with positivity in your everyday life, right? So I mean, like throughout your entire day, stay in alignment with positivity, stay in alignment with truth, divine love, divine power, meaning the energy. When you stay in alignment with that, that means your energy channels are quite open to receive the higher wisdom. If I was someone who was thinking, oh, I just can't wait, and I don't know if I'm ever going to get this way and all that, then I start to close my channels a bit. And as a result, I'm not going to be able to tap into such high frequency beings. It would be impossible. It would be like me putting my finger in an electric socket and I'm going to get shocked, right? So in order to be able to channel, and when I say high frequency, these beings like Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Archangel Raphael, those type of beings, let's just say they're next door to the divine, right? So they are buzzing. They're like the sun in a way. And in order to really tap into their divine truth, you need to be able to handle that. So your transformer needs to be a big transformer to be able to receive this divine wisdom. And so I need to do, what do you call that? When I need to do work on myself daily. I need to make sure that I focus my alignment. I don't have to go and do some kind of meditation. In fact, meditation is not enough. Doing meditation in the morning, that's not enough. What needs to be cleansed is the mind.
And how do you do that? How would you normally cleanse your mind?
How I do it is I'm aware of my thoughts. I'm aware of every thought I speak. I'm aware of every thought I think. And I ask myself, if I do think a negative thought, I ask myself, how can you shift this into something positive? Because it's a lie you're telling yourself, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Strange. And I'm not saying that's easy, by the way.
No.
It's like I want to be a kid and scream like it's bloody hard work.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. This is a really weird thing for me to say, but just with you saying that, and but I just when you're saying it, I'm thinking to myself, God, man, what goes through the bloody mind of a psychopath sometimes? That goes ahead and just kills innocent victims and then walks away from a crime scene.
Yeah.
Just what is in that brain to do that? What evil is it? Is it evil? God, it has to be something dark that you're working with. But yeah, how can there's no balance, is there? To what you're saying? I mean, it's just totally unbalanced, and I guess minds can be corrupt, can't they? That minds can be faulty as well.
Most of our minds are, everyone's minds. I would find it difficult to believe that someone here grew up in this society and did not have their mind become negative.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
With schooling, with told what's not right. Don't do this. Sit this way. Don't say this.
Whatever they may be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Agreed. But then obviously we're able to self sort of repair, aren't we? We're able to come back to normality, come back to love, have a natural care for other people. I suppose some people aren't able to do that, are they? But I don't know why I'm bring this up. I guess yes, I suppose where you're getting your information from, it is good if the person's doing the work on themselves. I suppose that's an important part of what I'm trying to say.
It is an important part. And I think that, when you do pick someone like as a reader or a psychic, the most important thing to see is what kind of lifestyle are they living? What kind of things are they saying? Right? Because they're human beings as well. Are they living the truth? Are they connected to that? And what kind of energy do you want to receive? Do you want to receive high frequency energy? What can you handle physically to receive, right? So that's also dependent on what kind of psychic or channeler you want to go to.
The title, Heal and Awaken the Goddess Within, I was saying this off air as well, that I guess it is the rise of the feminine right now, right? And maybe, even though that title is quite a feminine title, maybe, even for a guy, it is going into that energy, isn't it? The creative energy, the energy of creation is that energy. You were told not to change that title, and you stuck by that, which I think is honourable that you did. But it's so true, isn't it? It is this book in regards to purpose. Awakening to your purpose right now. How important is that we don't put it off anymore, and that we are really going into purpose? And for some people watching this, they may be watching it and thinking that they're in purpose, and they may be, but is it good to be aware that
I thought
there
of
are
so
other
many different
purposes
things
that
to
may
talk
be
about
just
just
around the
based on
corner,
what
and
you
to be
just
open
said.
to them as well?
So first of all, I'm going to just kind of intuitively talk here. And I'll be shown the next thing to talk about. But with regards to the title, I was put off immediately from the title when it first came through, because I love men. And the majority of my time, I would work in, a room of 15, 20 people, and sometimes I was the only woman, right? So for 30 years, usually I worked with men. And my experience with some women was really uncomfortable because they were competitive, and I was naively not even knowing this. Some guy had to tell me that they're competitive, right? Because I didn't even know this about women. So, but what I've been getting shown is that what this means is that we have this, and this has nothing to do with the rising of the feminine, because this has to do with being equal again. This has to do with letting the feminine rise to be equal to the masculine within you, right? Letting yourself become whole again, rather than, too much male, too much female, and all this kind of garbage is the word I'm hearing. Now it's about uniting the female with the male, creating marriage within yourself. I have created such a skill in all the leadership roles that a great man can do, which is, and I say that with reverence, is, being able to speak in public, being able to be brave, when you're scared shitless, but somehow your testosterone has that ability to still do it. Having an ability to, systematize and organize and all this kind of stuff, having the ability to talk with other peers and work together, not do that jealousy thing. There's all these beautiful attributes that a man has had, and women have had to also develop those, especially women who had to become leaders in the world, right? Working world. But what we have all done is we have suppressed the sacred feminine. And I'm not just talking about this lifetime. For those of you who may believe in past lifetimes, we may have experienced past lifetimes with ourselves as a female, or with someone that we love as a female. And through that, we have experienced past life trauma. We have also experienced ancestral trauma. So our ancestors have experienced pain where women have been suppressed. And, they always use that word witch, but this is a falsehood. This is where people were just being free to be themselves. They're being free to be creators. They're being free to be healers and so forth. And they were suppressed, they were tortured, they were maimed, all kinds of stuff. And we carried that into our cellular makeup. And as such, what happens is in this world, and the whole schooling, you can even see the schooling, the corporation, they all developed all these rules to keep everyone safe, right? Don't do this so that, then things will go wrong. And what happened is we developed this strong belief system within ourselves that this is true because it just seemed to make sense. It was logical. But what we need to now do is unlearn that part of ourselves and heal that part of ourselves so that we can realize that there is this archetypical energy, which we have, the sacred masculine, the sacred feminine. And I'm speaking it in terms of archetype. The feminine part of us has access to the creator within us. The part of us who has the when you think about that sexual creativity, even men, they have lost that sexual creativity, even when it comes to sex. So there are aspects where we need to open that back up again. We need to be able to open that sacral part of us. We need to be able to open that gut instinct inside of ourselves and let it rise to that other nice masculine part of us, the active, the vocal, all this kind of stuff, and bring that to the surface. So the goal is to be able to awaken ourselves to some kind of calling we have in ourselves. And when you say that people, some people may feel like they're living their purpose. So this is the challenge that the goddesses are bringing with regards to that statement, is that when we think we are living our purpose, we may be, but we're being asked to think about how we can even bring that into a greater realm. How we can, because the divine is ever expanding. And when the divine is ever expanding, because we are one with the divine, that means that we are ever expanding. And so the potential within us is limitless. We can keep growing. And when we can keep growing, we can embrace those new parts of us that we might be afraid. So they welcome us to be able to see what potentials may exist within us that we can try and expand and see if something more is within us that needs to be, or is wanting to be brought out into the world.
Right. And sometimes to get into that purpose, life presents all sorts of challenges to us. On the outside, or the one experiencing the challenge may think, oh my God, life hates me, right? Or I can't control life. Life is in control. Or my soul is, whatever you want to say. Maybe my soul's pushing me on this direction. But if someone's not into the spiritual kind of ideology, it may come across as life is hard right now. Life is whatever it may be. But actually, on the edge of all that, and at the end of all that, because everything comes to an end in the end, even though it may feel like Groundhog Day, right, or every day, right? There is an end somewhere. Maybe you're coming to a different conclusion about stuff. Maybe you're like, do you know what? I think I know what it's telling. I think I'm supposed to be doing something else, or I feel I'm really going to go and do this or that. Do you know what I mean? Which is different to whatever you've been doing before. But life, the soul, I'm using those words, pushed you in such a painful situation that it was the only way, apart from getting hit over the head and having a near-death experience, which was maybe not in your life plan right now, for you to get the message. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it can be subtle, but if you're not going to listen, I'm sure life has ways of presenting the opportunity to listen, and because you're at your wit's end.
Yeah, exactly. The way I was shown, which surprised me, was that when we have fear, I'm trying to remember what I wrote, but when we have fear, we are constricting ourselves. We're resisting inside of ourselves. So like physically we're resisting. And what happens when we are resisting, we're constricting our soul. And our soul is not able to express itself. And the only way our soul can communicate to us is through our physical body. And what happens is our soul, gives us little hints here and there. Hey, you need to stop that. And when you keep doing it, what happens is the soul will do something. Anxiety is a good way for your soul to speak to you. It will do things to your nervous system to give you anxiety, so that you now are in a state of, I've got to change something here. This is ridiculous, right? So this is an opportunity for you to hear and to recognize the signs, which will enable you to make change and to say, hey, okay, what is it that I really want to do?
Yeah, what are you denying yourself? What are you
Yes.
What are you
That's a good statement.
What are you so bothered about other people thinking about you that has got you into this situation where I'll say it again, you've denied what you should be doing, what you should, or what for whatever reason, it could be many layered reasons. It's not always obvious, is it? To the person that's going through it. And it's funny, the way you were just describing that situation, all I'm thinking at the time when you're describing it is, I'm like, yeah, what she's describing there is actually external events taking place to get you to that nervousness. Whatever external situations have occurred are causing you to go through that. And why have they happened? Well, hello, something wants to speak to you. And
yeah,
am I okay to call it the soul? Is it your soul trying to speak to you?
Yes, it is your soul trying to speak to you. The one thing that people forget, and the reason why they forget this is, first of all, they forget that they're one with the divine. When I say divine, I mean, it's every word possible you can think of, right? The almighty power. Yeah. So when you forget that you are one with it, and the reason why people forget is they forget that energy is flowing through everything. It's flowing through this table. It's not just a solid table. I mean, everyone knows that. That's bloody fact. So because it's a fact, it means it's flowing through everything. It's not flowing separately through the table and separately through me. No, I'm one with this matrix of energy. And we forget this part. And this energy is not just energy, it's consisting of wisdom as well, and love, when you really feel, when you're able to feel it. And so when you're able to understand that we're connected to this energy, that's when you start to realize you're not separate. You know, you don't have to look for some person in the sky waiting to give you the answers. You realize that you are this creator. You have this power to create an alignment with truth, an alignment with goodness, you know?
Please don't stop. I want to say something, but please continue if you want.
Yeah, so when you align with this goodness, that's when you start to remember you, right? That's when you start to remember, wow, like all of this is a lie I'm telling myself. And that's when you can start to hear your thoughts. That's when you can start to tell your thoughts they're nonsense. That's when you can start to develop the power within yourself to shift yourself. And a good way when you're in that state, and it is hard when you're in the anxiety state, is to first focus on self-nurture. Do things that make you feel good. Do things that make you feel safe. Do things that make you feel warmth and love and honor, because someone else might not be able to give that to you. And when you can give that to yourself, then you get yourself into a calm state. And when you do, then you're able to realize, hey, I'm one with this energy. And then you're in a state where you can tell yourself, wow, I can shift my focus.
Yeah, so true what you're saying, right? There's so much I could just go from what you're saying there. Multi-purposes. Do you think that some of us have multiple purposes, that in the time now, it's not just one purpose? It's not just always so clear, is it? You know, there may be other, that your purpose may be shared between a few of them.
Yes. Okay, so first of all, people get misconstrued about the concept of purpose. Often people think, oh, purpose is a career, right? I got to do the right thing. I got to have a certain career or whatever. But purpose is being in alignment with the quality that your spirit wants to be in alignment with. Okay, so if you're someone, and you'll notice it in certain personalities, like a comedian, man, they want to be in alignment with joy. They want to make people happy. That's why they came here. They want to focus on that, right? So let's just say if there was someone who is someone that just loves to be in alignment with joy, how do they want to be in alignment with joy? What thrills them? Is it being with kids? Is it something where they want to bring kids to a joyous revelation that they can live a different type of life, that they don't have to follow the typical schooling system? Or is it something where they want to bring them in alignment with joy, where they want to learn how to just play? Maybe it's kids who are not comfortable learning how to play. They need to open that part of themselves up, right? So it can get very specific, but it's introducing a quality into your life. And the idea is that when you have that quality into your life, then you apply it to every aspect of your life. You apply it to your career. Let's just say you're a mathematician and you want to bring in joy, and you're for work, you're doing accounting. How can you bring this joy into your business? How can you bring it into, or if you're working for someone, how can you bring this into this corporation? Right? What can you do to bring in joy into this corporation? So this is something where you can invite yourself to say, how can I live this quality in my life at all times? Because this is ultimately what my gut wants me to do. I know inside of me that I'm not happy when I'm able to do that. And I'm happy when I do have those moments on a weekend or an occasional vacation, and I get to be free to be this person. But the idea here is what the energy of 2023 is asking of us. It's asking us to be this now, to be this in all aspects of our lives, and not to punish ourselves that we're not having the exact career that we want. No, it's inviting us to bring this joy, this quality that you want into all aspects of your life. That you have the power to do this. And let's just say, if you have so much suppression in your workplace, well, eventually you can reorient yourself to some other workplace that will bring you that quality of joy that you want. You're not a victim. You are the creator, where you can create an environment that you please.
Yeah, okay. There's a lot said there, and I it's very difficult to take that all in, because what you said there was, everything you're saying is really good, and it's just trying to keep up with you as well. I feel sometimes like, okay, yeah, okay, from these hours, I'd like to do this. And then maybe this part of the day, I'd like to do this. Now, these two are totally different, right? And then, one day every weekend, I want to do this. That's totally different to all those other two. And, they're not all connected, but they all bring one thing, which is joy in their own moments. But it's not, you don't want to you're finding it difficult to pick one. And maybe that's not a good thing in them. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's, to be so spread out with your energy, right? Maybe it's better just to have one. But sometimes we've created so many things for ourselves, right? And that we're like, well, I don't want to give that up. I don't really want to stop that. But then, do you know what I mean? It can get very messy sometimes, can't it? When some of us that start and stop things, or don't see things through, or then if we do see it through, we're on to the bloody next thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean. Yeah. And that's, by the way, busyness was brought up in my book. There are cases where people, and I'm sure you know this and have heard this, where people keep busy by being busy to feel like they're accomplishing something, because they haven't addressed that part of themselves that feels like they have they're bringing value into the world. And so they focus on being busy rather than doing what they feel called to do, because sometimes they think that they cannot do what they're being called to do because of life circumstances. Don't have the money, don't have the time, can't learn, don't have the time to learn, all this kind of stuff. And so they make reasons to find their way to be busy with all kinds of things. And you can, and also, like you said, you can also be busy with so many things, wondering how do you hone in and get focus. And that really is something where, to me, it's something, it's a choice where you ask yourself, of these things, what is it that drives me the most? And you'll know the answer, what drives you the most. And then learning, how can you make what drives you the most paramount, prominent in your life? How can you make that the most prominent?
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess for some people, it's like it's the sadness of having to give one of the other things up, because it would have probably been of benefit to others. But then you see these people like and it's a bit crazy to connect them really, but people like Elon Musk, or I mean, these are not normal people in some respects, right? But just people that, maybe he's not the best example, right? But just people who, are able to hand off things, say, look, I'm going to set this up, but I'm not going to run it in the end. Do you know what I mean? Someone else, it's just my name's on it in a sense. They're able to sort of make it work on its own right, and then move on to something else. But it's not the giving up of it, that project's still continuing, but they're sort of managing it in a completely different way. So that does happen. But when you're just a one-man person or one-woman person, it's maybe that thinking's no, not the healthiest.
It's interesting you said that, because there was an aspect where when I was, I was going busy writing all of this, and then I was being shown my future, and it scared me a bit, because I was being shown that I'm going to help 1 million people, right?
Right. So how's one person going to? Yeah. Okay, that's the thinking that you've had when you were first showing it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I thought, oh my goodness, like this is. I started to feel overwhelmed. I started to feel like, oh my God, all the responsibilities I have, all this kind of stuff. So I asked myself, okay, Genevieve, what are you afraid of? This needs to be addressed. You can't keep thinking this way, right? So what needed to be addressed is that feeling like all my life, I have to be the responsible one in my family, growing up, all this kind of stuff. So I said to myself, how is this a lie? Right? That I would have to be responsible. And then I realized, well, I would just hire people. And then I thought, wow, like if I hire people, I get to help them to live their purpose. I get to create an enterprise that is really exciting, where it's, not like the old corporate world. This is something like beautiful, right? And then I got excited, and then I realized, wow, and I can hire coaches who are ahead of me who already know the answers to things. So I don't have to be looking them up and trying to figure it all out. So that's where I could feel the expansiveness. And then that's when I let go of that fear of,
I think what you're saying is sometimes you've got to take a seat back and let it be, knowing that you're able to do these things. But I guess life's maybe lived a little bit better with purpose if you just let go sometimes as well. Was that ever covered in the book, of just knowing that it will be taken care of? That if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Is that part of letting go in? Is that part of purpose?
Well, there's a whole thing called divine will. And I know that you do ask about free will in your calls, right? But divine will is brought up. And to me, it was the most powerful part of the book. So with divine will, I have to kind of tap into this to be able to translate it. But with divine will, we need to understand, and it's going back to this understanding that we are one with the divine. So when you understand, first of all, that you're one with this matrix of energy, okay? This means that you are one with the creator, which means that you are the creator, which means that as you create, your world appears, which means that, and it's almost a hard concept to understand, but it means that the divine responds to your creations. What you think, what you desire into your life is already occurring instantly, because there is no time and space that's happening. So as you think, I am helping 1 million people. Okay, as I think I know when you align, the trick is to align with knowing, not thinking. When you align with the knowing that because I'm the creator, because I'm one with this creator, better terminology, this means that I cannot separate from the creator. I'm part of the creator. And in order to manifest my creations, in the beginning was the word. That is the most powerful statement there. In the beginning, that means that my knowing is the word. So I'm presenting the word, and in the word is creation. When I align with this knowing that I am making an impact on 1 million people, the divine is already responding to the how. The divine is already making it happen because the divine just created. So now the resources come my way. People email me, hey, Genevieve, you want to have an interview? Just things that happen. Things come your way. And I have literally had miracles happen in my life from my desire. And I've had, I would have, within half an hour, I would have a phone call of someone actually responding to a question that I had, wondering, I wonder how to do this. And then some sales guy calls me and says, hey, I'm just doing a free audit on da-da-da-da. Can I come into your facility and help you with this? And I thought, wow, right? This is amazing. But this is so, when you align with the knowing, so that's the trick, is to understand this concept first, that you are one with this matrix of energy, then move yourself to the next level and say, well, if I'm one, that means I'm one with the creator. That means that creations happen with me as a result. And because of that, my will be done. Thine will be done. And it happens just like that. So when we can learn how to align with this positive thinking, this knowing inside of us, so that's where we need to align with the power of the divine. Because when we align with doubts, then we create lack, right? it's impossible to create these powerful manifestations if we do not align with that knowing. And that's the key thing there.
That is so powerful. And that is so true, isn't it? Any of us can take ourselves back to a time when we said, you know what? We've all done this in some ways. I'm going to change my career, and you just become that. You state it, you do it, and as you say, doors open, and you're then walking in that direction. And then other people say, "Oh, he's that now, she's that now." You know, that's what they do now. Well, all they did is what you said: is you become one, and with that, with that, with the divine, with whatever you want to call it, right? And you are it. You just, because you're calling it into reality, in a sense. It's choosing what feels right, isn't it? And sometimes there's a lot that feels right. And but what is that real? What's the strongest predominant one? What's the one you really want to do? And
like, as an example, okay, I have many good tools because I have learned so many things. And, you know, initially when I started my business, I thought, oh, I'm going to do Reiki. That's what I thought. I'm going to be a healer and do Reiki, right? And when I was being shown this, I think, wow, like, this is so powerful. This can change lives in a huge way. This can empower people to then move on and continue this and change lives in their own ways. Right? Rather than me just doing healing on someone and then they walk away feeling good for a few days.
Yeah, that's how powerful this is. Yeah, so that's why you chose this.
Yeah. And to be honest, it was a bit of a sadness, right? To let go. But the beauty is that people are still experiencing healing. I'm not literally doing hands-on kind of Reiki thing, but the miracle is still happening where they receive healing. They're experiencing energy as I talk to them. And I'm thinking, okay, it hasn't really left me. It's just being expressed in a new way.
Do you think that could change for you in the future?
I think it's not what I think of what I'm experiencing when I answer you. The experience is that the healing just expands.
Right.
So the more I do, the more powerful everything gets.
Right. So it could look different, but maybe at the core it's still the same, but it's maybe just slightly different. Yeah, but it's still okay. But you couldn't get...
I've literally had people pick up my book and say, and I was told the words in your book are actually going to create healing, right? And of course, I'm someone who likes to be logical too. I'll believe it when I see it, right? I believe it, but I want to see it actually happening. So I'm starting to get people say, I picked up your book and I can't believe the energy. I've never felt energy coming off of it. I've never told them this. I didn't tell anyone. And then I read the intro and I started to cry and I felt the energy. These are sensitive people that I happen to know of, right? I had to put the book down to just experience the energy.
Again, what's one of the more powerful chapters that you enjoyed as well doing?
Well, that one thing that I told you about already.
Right, yeah.
Divine will, like, to me is like, whoa. It's even hard to explain because it's something that you almost have to experience, right? That concept. With regards to money, there was something interesting that was being shown. So there's so much belief about money. Money is bad. I shouldn't be making money, right? Just all these things. Oh, you can only make so much money, or whatever it is. So the teaching came with the past, talking about the past, and I have no proof of this, but the past was, what I was told was that the ancient Greeks had an understanding of the value in money, that it represented the value you gave, the value you had to offer. But there was also an association, an understanding, or an analogy or a metaphor, I guess it's called, with regards to the moon, the full moon, and the impact that the moon has on the tides, the flow and the inflow, right? And what happens is many people are in the energy of chasing after money rather than allowing themselves to understand that there's an ebb and a flow that occurs. And when you have moments of ebb, what people tend to do is punish themselves, that they're not being active enough, that they're not doing all the things they have to be doing, and all these kinds of things, which stems from the beginning phases of our life where we've taught to always self-punish, right? Or punish others. So our go-to is always this punishment phase. But with the concept of this moon, so first was mentioned about the ebb and flow. When you have moments of being in the ebb, what you do is you sit back and you relax. And when you do, you nurture yourself. You let go of this active part of you, which is basically embracing the sacred feminine archetype in us and being able to hear the next creations that are coming our way. This is how you're able to continue the growth of what it is that you want to produce in life. So this concept has occurred with regards to money and the moon. It talked about the moon and embracing that if you make a lot of money, for instance, you're able to choose huge philanthropic things in life. You can create greatness in this world. You can help millions upon millions. You can help people in different countries if you choose. You can create new programs. You can do volunteer nonprofit organizing. You could do all kinds of things. If you only make $100,000 a year, there's not much you can do. You're pretty much paying all your bills, and that's it. And you're working like a dog, and you go home, and your world is your family, basically. But when you're able to bring forth amazingness and embrace money and realize that this is a fabulous thing because it enables you to help the world in a huge way in whatever manner you wish, then greatness occurs. And there was another thing about the moon. The moon, when you look at the reflection in the water in the middle of the night and the moon is shining upon the water, imagine seeing yourself in the reflection of the water. And how are you seeing yourself? How you see yourself is how the world is seeing you. And if you want to really share your greatness in the world, then you need to be able to allow yourself to shine that greatness within you. And this is the part of you that needs to embrace the magnificence that exists within you. And this is the part that many people are afraid of. They think, oh, little old me has something big to share. Someone would actually be interested in me and my gifts. This is scary for many to be able to, and when you can do that, so it's teaching yourself to embrace that part of yourself. Let your own self shine into the water, and you see this beauty, like you see the beauty of the full moon in the water. Imagine you being that reflection.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself?
And I'm thinking, as you say that, for some people, maybe they want to reflect just having fun. Not at anyone's expense, but just with doing the things that they really enjoy doing. That would be, to live in a fulfilled, enjoyed life in the moment.
You say that. It's interesting because a friend of mine, he used to always have fun with getting the most expensive boats and having lots of people come over and all that kind of stuff. And then something happened to him in life, and he realized that when he looked at himself deep down, they didn't make him happy, right? And what made him happy was he is doing now, which is really helping the world. He's an amazing trainer and helping people in a huge way, right? So he said, he felt more rich when he gave all that up. And took a chance in his life to create something that he felt would really
which goes to your thing of money as well, which you just mentioned. Maybe as well, could you add to it, when you're doing what you love, maybe, maybe would you be happy in any moment where it wasn't really bringing that much in, but you're just at least doing something that you enjoy rather than not? Easy for me to say that. We've all got different life circumstances, haven't we? But I'm guessing I'm putting that question to, like, well, maybe if you've got everything covered, at the minimum, and it's, maybe I'm being selfish and saying that from a perspective of just, not having too many responsibilities, right? But I guess it's different for everyone, isn't it? But yeah, maybe that answer, maybe a lot of these answers are very individual.
They're very individual, and we do know that many people experience poverty, and how do they experience greatness? I know a friend of mine who, had to escape the war, and he shares with me his struggles in leaving Afghanistan and having to go to Turkey, escape to Turkey, and then, with literally he had guns aiming his way, and his mom and his dad and all that, right? And then moving to Australia. I mean, his story is miraculous, and through that, he's had financial he's had all kind, just eating food struggles, right? But he found a way to focus on the positive, never give up. Was the one thing that he remembered, the story where he had to carry his mom up the mountain to go to Turkey, and his dad, because she couldn't walk fully, and his dad and the rest of the gang said, let's turn around, and he said, my mom carried me for 9 months, I'm not giving up, we're not giving up. And he was just a teenager. Not giving up, Dad, let's go. And they made it past the bullets, and they made it across the border. And to this day, he's an extremely positive person, right? So somehow what I'm trying to say is, through the struggles that people live, and I mean, I've never had to experience such struggles, but through those struggles, some people still are able to experience some kind of positive quality, either if it's peace, or if it's some kind of hope, or if it's something inside, right? And of course, living your purpose, that's the purpose in that moment.
That's right. For those type of situations, to force you into that, to where you need to be, which is what I was saying earlier on. And that sounds crazy, me saying that, for having him in his situation to go through that struggle. But did it get him to a place where only he would find happiness in the place that he's at? And but on the outside, it looks very destructive or difficult, or all those, and much more. Very difficult to judge. And I should end it with this as well, that no matter what someone's doing, I mean, we, career-wise, it's if they're happy doing what they're doing and they feel that that's their purpose, well, who are we to judge?
Yeah, exactly. The only thing I invite people to do is to allow themselves to play with the possibility that they can experience more of that good feeling inside of themselves.
Yes, and that may be an evolution from what they're doing now. So as you said before, in different ways you've said it, to that next part. Yes, and not to forget that as well, because maybe if we don't do some of these things in this lifetime, maybe we only come back and repeat it again and again in different ways, and actually, we can. There's something important about seeing it through now. Yes. Absolutely. I don't always look forward to the idea of coming back sometimes. Not with the same struggles. I mean, it would have to be like the Matrix, where they're putting him back in it, and he's gonna have the best of life. That's I'll come back for that. But I'm sure even that would come with its own struggles. So yeah. Okay, listen, look. A fascinating interview, and I know that we're well over an hour and 30 minutes here right now, and I appreciate anyone that's just stuck with us. this is a subject in its own right. It's very dear to me. This is as well. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing what you have done so far. And just remind people again where they can find out more and contact yourself and interact with yourself. That is.
Yeah, so I'm Genevieve Taeger, and you can find me at liveatransformativelife.com. And you can find me on Instagram. I do a lot of videos there, reels and all that kind of stuff. Genevieve.Taeger, Taeger.
Well, Genevieve, that's been coming up on the screen throughout this interview. Anything that we talked about will be in the description below as well in the YouTube video. I just want to thank you so much for letting me just do this interview with you as well. Very important what you're doing, and very pleased to have you on, so thank you.
Thank you. I'm really buzzing, actually, because the energy of speaking all these divine truths is really powerful, and it was so fun to do with you, so thank you.